Hi everyone, my name's Aaron Short. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Back with another interview today, and I'm very lucky to have a good friend of mine. This is John Kelley from Ortega Guitars. How you doing, John?
Doing well, thanks, Aaron.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you too, my friend.
And I see you're in the office with some guitars behind you, so I might ask you to show us some of those later on. We'll see how we go.
Happy to. Yeah, Nashville is eased its stay-at-home restrictions, and we're able to get back in the office and get back to business.
That's good to hear. Hey, look, I'm in the chat right now. We've got Eric from Poland. That's awesome. Patsy and Bernard from Suffolk, UK. So we're worldwide today. And John Kelley, someone with the same name as you, also in Tennessee.
What are the chances?
Oh, hi, Corazon in New York City. Okay, awesome. Yeah, if you've got any questions as we go, please feel free to ask them. And we'll talk a lot about Ortega guitars later on. But I want to start with you. I'm just trying to think when we met. It was at NAMM, and it was a few years ago. And I think I ran into you. I think it was the AER stand you were at the time, and I reviewed some amps for you. We've known each other since then, right? And we always meet up at NAMM.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining me virtually to get to know you a bit better today on the chat, and our friends in the chat as well. Really appreciate your time. Let's start with you. So who are you? Where are you from? What got you into guitars in the beginning?
Well, as you already mentioned, my name is John Kelley. I'm from a little town called Terre Haute, Indiana. Born and bred. It's on I-70, about an hour west of Indianapolis. I always have been musical. I'm really the only one in my family. I have a younger brother and my mother and father, of course. So there's the four of us growing up. And I was the only musician in the family. I was always in choir in elementary school and orchestra in elementary school. And then, like so many others, the guitar crossed my transom when an older neighbor had one and let me borrow it. And I tinkered around on it and fell in love with it, got the hang of it, and have been playing ever since. That was probably since I was 12, 13 years old. And Indiana in the early 80s was, all we had on the radio was the heavy metal boom coming out of LA. So the power chord opened up a whole lot of doors for me. And that's really how I got into guitars and been playing ever since. I went to middle school I kind of lived on the edge of a school district. So I went to middle school at a middle school where not a lot of my friends went from elementary school. And the cool kids in middle school had a band. So I got in it. They hung out with all the best looking girls. So it seemed like the way to go to integrate myself into this new school with this new crowd of people. So, and I was the only one that stuck with it. I was the only one that hung in there, and that resulted in that misspent youth resulted in this career in the music business.
That's awesome. So was your first guitar an electric guitar or an acoustic then?
My first guitar was an electric guitar. It was a Chinese kit, one of the early Chinese kit guitar amp packages. I believe the brand name was actually DeLorean, if I'm not mistaken. A little black, 1 8-inch amp and a little black guitar, and that's what I started learning on. It's funny, my first real guitar was a Fender Telecaster Deluxe, and I got my dad to buy that for me because he challenged me to learn Johnny B. Goode, and obviously he was a Chuck Berry fan. So I got in the bedroom with my 45 record, and needless to say, learned it, and so then I started getting real guitars.
There's lots of Back to the Future references here. Do you like that movie?
Yeah, of course.
They just did an awesome YouTube video where they have the old cast back on and they do the song at the end.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's really fun, isn't it? Really heartwarming.
Yeah.
Okay, so electric guitar, but obviously I associate you with acoustic guitar. So when did you first get an acoustic guitar?
I first got an acoustic guitar. I had inherited a Roland Juno 6 synthesizer, and I play a little bit of piano too, and I was having some fun with that, tinkering around, but never was getting serious about it. And I traded that in on my first acoustic, which I still have. It's an old Takamine Squarehead Dreadnought, and I've kind of got a Takamine Squarehead Dreadnought fetish. I've got a parlor now. I've got a 12-string as well that I keep around, but that was my first one. I still have it. It lasted me all the way through college.
Yeah, I like to ask people what their first guitar was, and there's a lot of things in common. There's lots of things with the guests I've had on that have had similar experiences with their first guitars, and Takamine has come up with Lloyd Baggs, had some stories with Takamine, and obviously their pickup system was is still very renowned now. And the acoustic world is very small, and a lot of stories tied together. That's why I asked you about what your first acoustic was.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So you played electric guitar, you're in bands. What was your first career that was music related then?
I went to Denver after college. I mean, I played in college bands, actually played for money, toured around the Southeast Circuit, Oxford, Mississippi, Memphis, Nashville. and did, the college bar thing. So I don't know, I'd call that a career, definitely semi-pro career. I really started to gravitate towards acoustic guitar for a couple of reasons. One, I was in Nashville, and this town's a pretty tough town for a pretty good guitar player, especially an electric guitar player. So I'm still a singer as well, singer-songwriter, wannabe type. So I gravitated to acoustic guitar. And after college, went out to Denver and did the Jimmy Buffett in the Snow cover circuit for a while. And then ended up coming back to Nashville when a buddy of mine had gotten a job at Gibson and got promoted and said, "Hey, you need to come back. We'll make some music together. I can get you this job at Gibson." And that was 1994, and I've been in Nashville ever since.
So what did you do at Gibson? That's a pretty cool story.
I've done a couple of things at Gibson. My first job at Gibson, I was just an inside sales rep at the Nashville plant. So I was calling around music stores, selling Les Pauls, supporting the outside reps, a handful of the outside reps. That were out traveling, obviously selling Gibson products. And then I went back to Gibson in 2007 and was an e-commerce sales manager for them, handling Sweetwater and American Music Supply and First Quality and Janet Davis and Fuller's Guitars, accounts like that.
Awesome. And which other companies have you worked for over the years?
I put in 5 years at Fender, 2 different stints at U.S. Music. It was Washburn International. That was actually my first outside repping gig, and then went back to be their sales manager in late 2008, 2009. And then the last 10 years I've spent with SF Marketing. It's a distributor out of Montreal that also distributes products in the States. And I was the director of their musical instrument division. And then in July of last year, I got the opportunity to join the Meinl team as head of their Ortega North American operation, and made the move and have been plugging away at that for the last 10 months.
That's really interesting. So you've worked for many of the different major musical brands over your life, right? So I mean, how did you? Is that something you looked to do? Is it something you kind of fell into? And what was the story there?
Funny enough, I did kind of look to do it. I mean, I still remember doodling as a 16-year-old Fender logos and things like that on my notebooks from school, and thinking that it would be a pretty cool job to be a guitar salesman. I worked at retail. I taught lessons in high school and worked at retail, and always thought the reps were cool and had the coolest jobs ever. And then, like I said, when my buddy called me back from Colorado to come to work for Gibson, it kind of all fell together. And all I've ever really done, knock on wood, is play guitar or sell guitars.
That's really interesting. So how have you seen the music sales thing change over the years then, with when the internet came into play and things like that? What do you think the biggest change has been from when you started to now?
Well, I mean, I can go back even before that. With the beginning of that change was the Musician's Friend catalog, before the internet ever came on. And that was going to be the death of the local retailer and the end of music business as we knew it. And then, of course, the internet came on and had its particular disruptive qualities, as it still does. I think the common denominator, the thing that hasn't changed, is human beings' desire to make music, and where they actually, find the tools to make music has broadened or expanded or become easier. But ultimately, not a lot has changed.
So, what's your personal opinion then of the internet retailers and the local stores? Like, do you like to support local stores, or do you think the internet do you think it's gonna kill those stores eventually? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't. I think that the addition of accessible internet platforms for any level of retailer, no matter their size or technical scope, be it Reverb, be it an Amazon FBA model, things like that, have given a relatively level playing field to a broader range of retailers. And I think industrious retailers, it's, any business situation like that is, survival of the fittest and innovate or die and all of those things. And then our business is no different. So the local retailers that have been able to adapt the important local aspect of what they do, giving lessons, providing service, fixing things, introducing, the community outreach that they participate in, combined with their access to Reverb platforms or Amazon FBA or whatever it might be, I think has been an important innovation in that development of e-commerce versus brick and mortar. And then, of course, the e-commerce giants just have so much more ability to offer such a wider wider array, wider variety of product that they have their important place as well.
Yeah. I remember when the internet started, it was going to kill music. And in some ways it has, and in some ways it's just given ultimate freedom to people like me that I could even sit here and do this. And companies like Ortega that can now sell online. You can promote yourself on all these social media channels and all these things. So yeah, there's definitely good and bad. Actually, tomorrow I have Chuck on from Sweetwater. I mean, there's a story right there, right?
That's Mr. Sirac to you and me.
Actually, I better remember that tomorrow. So let's talk about Ortega then. I wasn't very familiar with them until you joined them at the time, because I mainly play steel string guitars. I know, so Ortega do mostly nylon string guitars and ukuleles. Is that correct? And accessories.
That's correct.
Okay,
that's
great.
Correct.
So let's talk about the company for anyone that's not familiar. Can you tell us when the actual company started and what their vision was in the beginning?
Sure. 26 years ago is when the company started, and it was born out of a collaboration between Reinhold Meinl of the Meinl Cymbal and Percussion Empire and a factory contact he had in Spain that he had met. He was looking to expand his product offering beyond the cymbal and percussion products that were branded Meinl. Meinl is an extremely powerful distributor in Germany. They distribute PRS and Mesa Boogie and Hoshino products and a number of other products as well. So he had the distribution experience, plus he had the manufacturing facilities with Meinl cymbal and percussion products. He wanted to get into his own guitar brand and had the contact with the Spanish factory. So Ortega started as a Spanish-built nylon string or classical guitar company. Meinl on the headstock of a Spanish-built nylon guitar didn't make the most marketing sense at the time. So they came up with the brand name Ortega. Obviously not it being in Germany, not familiar with the taco empire that Ortega has here in the States. And ran with that over the last 25 years and have built a worldwide recognized nylon string brand. They brought it over to the U.S. 5 years ago now, to start chipping away at market share in the U.S. And last year, market forces aligned themselves such that they really wanted to make a significant investment and push the Ortega brand in the United States. Hence this beautiful showroom that I'm sitting in, our own office and warehouse space here in Nashville, bringing me on board to build a nationwide sales team and get that thing going.
Yeah, they've definitely had more exposure in the last 12 months. I noticed that. I've seen them on different YouTubers' channels, like the little uke bass. I've seen that. And the guitars, I've seen them. And I reviewed this one for you.
Yes, you did. You still using it?
I am. I used the first one so much. Obviously, I'm not using it much right now because of what's going on. Right. But I used the first one so much that I wore right through it. It was like covered in mud, and it kind of, well, not mud, but it was covered in. It just got. I literally used it every night for like 6 months. Amazing.
New York City shoe goo.
Yeah. yeah. I'm also 6'5" with very heavy feet, but no, I love it. I think these stump box things, I've tried a lot of them, but I really like this one. And I think anyone that plays, I mean, you play acoustic shows too, right?
Of course.
I actually did a show last night about should we use back and track, should we use loops, and something like this just allows you to add the rhythm on the fly. So I think, I do use loops as well now, but I think it's good. Even if you use loops, you can use this as well over the top of it. And if you're new to like the whole looping thing, like Becca Jones is here. She said last night she was a bit intimidated by the looping right now. Well, I would advise her to start with something like this, just to add some sort of percussion and then go into that stuff later on.
Sure. Well, I stomped on a tambourine since I was 18 years old. I still have that same tambourine that I used to use before coming across these things. And I'm an old dog these days. And the whole looping thing, I just don't have time to practice it. I can do it. I appreciate it. But, I'd really have to sit down and have the time to woodshed. And we weren't closed long enough for me to get into that, as well as all the other things I wanted to get back into. So I find the stomp box is extremely convenient, extremely easy way to add another element to your performance, and it's a really important part of our product line as well.
Yeah, and I know this because there's the passive one, there's this one, there's the double one, but this one is the one I've been recommending to people because it's simple. You just choose the sound, you plug it in, set the volume, and you just go. The battery lasts a good time too, and it's got DC power, AC power as well. So
just tap Just tap your foot.
9-volt DC. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. So yeah, thanks for that. So that's the stomp box. But let's talk about what else there is. So okay, let's start with the We'll get to the guitars at the end because that's the big, the big thing. What kind of accessories do Ortega make? Are they made by Ortega? Are they kind of licensed from other companies? What's the deal with that?
No, they're Ortega branded products. Okay. Ortega's contracted factories around the world to build Ortega accessories. Or as I mentioned, Meinl, as a German distributor, was partnered with a very powerful accessory company for a number of years. A few years ago, they decided to part ways for mutual business reasons, and Ortega Meinl wanted to make up for that accessory business that they were no longer going to enjoy. So they launched an aggressive campaign to produce a huge array of accessories, picks and capos and strings and straps, all to complement cables as well, all to complement the Ortega products that they were already selling.
Okay, yeah, awesome. And so the main line is nylon string guitars and ukuleles. There's no steel string guitars, right?
That's correct. They mentioned earlier that Meinl Cymbal and Percussion is the Hoshino distributor in Germany and has been good partners of Hoshino for decades. And it was just a gentleman's agreement of mutual friendship and mutual respect that Ortega would not infringe upon the Hoshino steel string guitar brand.
I see.
And so they went in the nylon string direction instead.
I see. What I noticed, I looked at them at NAMM. I noticed that the quality is really high for the price. Okay. So can you tell us about the construction, where they're made, how they're made, and anything like that?
Well, we make guitars both in a couple of Chinese factories, and we still have that same relationship, the 26-year now relationship with the Spanish factory. So I agree with you. The Chinese product was what originally attracted me to the opportunity when I saw the quality level of what they were offering for the price points that they were offering in a real student level, educationally applicable guitar. It just was hands down the best offer on the market. The feature set that they include in a $199 guitar is an incredible $50 gig bag in a $199 guitar, a 12-hole tie block, which nobody is using on an inexpensive guitar like that. You see that typically on handmade luthier grade instruments. So just those little attentions, that little attention to detail, those attentions to those details really impressed me and really showed me that this company has something to sell. It was just a matter of exposure. It was a matter of putting boots on the ground. I had to explain that to my German counterparts, what exactly that meant. But putting boots on the ground, getting product out in front of people and showing them this product, because it really is superior to a lot of our competition on the market.
Yeah, I remember. Remind me of the model. I saw one at NAMM that was around 200, like 199. Really good quality, amazing gig bag that comes with it. What do you recall what model that would be?
It'd be the R121 or the R122, depending on if it had a spruce top or a cedar top. But that is my go-to entry point to the Ortega line. We call that the family series, and it's a series because we go all the way down to the quarter size guitar. So we have full size 7/8, 3/4, half, and quarter size in that series. And the really impressive aspect of that series is that all the way down to the quarter size, you have the same attention to detail. You have the same unrelenting quality standards that carry on all the way down through the series. So often you get into those fractional size guitars and they don't intonate, they don't play properly, and you end up losing an aspiring player because they don't have an instrument that they can actually learn on. And the family series fractional stuff is really where Ortega stands out head and shoulders above any of our competition.
I totally agree. We're going through a time now which is horrible, but one good thing that's come out this time right now is I've noticed a lot of people learning the guitar because they have time to do things like that. So
guitars and ukes.
People always ask me, what should I get as my first guitar? And I always see people buying their first guitar. They're always these horrible guitars with high action, and they're hard to play, and they're kind of cheap. So it's really good that Ortega have those, especially the smaller bodies as well. Because you want your first guitar to be something, and that's why I also ask people what their first guitar was. You want it to be something that you want to pick up and play, and that you can play, right? It's very important. Certainly. And I think, all of the aspects of nylon string being easier on your fingers and easier to learn on, all of that's true. Yeah.
In this country, the prevalence of nylon music is not as high as it is in Europe or in other parts of the world. But I still believe, and I think you'll see some products. Well, I know you'll see some products coming out of Ortega that lend themselves more to an adult learner as well, not just a kid's guitar, but nicer finishes, nicer woods, something that a grown up with some coin would want to spend his money on and learn to play, given the fact that nylon is more comfortable, is a little easier to get around on as you're starting out.
I think, I've always played steel string guitar, but I think that the nylon thing is cool, and I think more people should check it out, because there's a guy here that plays in the bars, and he plays a nylon string guitar, and it sounds big. It's more of a warmer, fatter tone, and I think some people overlook them. I think sometimes they overlook them because of the wider, the classic wide necks and as well. But I know you have some models with thinner necks too, so. That's good.
Well, I fell in love with it in college. I went to Vanderbilt University to study composition and music theory. I was going to be a comp and theory major. And the professor that I had, while he was a brilliant composer, was much more interested in or oriented towards the Schoenberg 12-tone matrix type of music that was going around in the early 90s. Well, it bled into the early 90s, and I really just wanted to be a songwriter. So I wasn't that intrigued with that course of study, and was already a guitar player, so auditioned for the guitar department there with Randy Rhoads D, and they took me, and I ended up with a degree in classical guitar performance, and have always loved the nylon ever since. Now, how often I play it out, not nearly as much as my steel string, obviously, because I'm strumming and crooning covers, but still have always had one around, and still always have one by the couch, and have always played it.
Yeah, that's great. So we've discussed the entry level, but tell me about the higher. What's the most expensive? What's the highest end guitar that Ortega makes? Let's go to the other end of the spectrum.
We top out at $2,300 map price or street price, and that is an all solid wood, handmade, Spanish built, traditional classical guitar, and just exquisite. Solid cedar tops, solid rosewood back and sides, as nice as anything on the market at that price point for a production guitar.
Very, very nice. And I talk a lot about pickups on the channel. And I see some guitars behind you with electronics. So can you tell us what kind of electronic options you offer in the guitars?
Ortega has partnered with Fishman to create their own preamp and their own pickup system that they call the Magus, Magus, very German name, Magus Pro system. And we have that for guitar and ukulele as well as bass. And that's what we use in our guitars. We also sell that aftermarket as part of our accessory offering.
That's cool. And can you tell me more about it? Like, is it an undersaddle with a mic? Is there a preamp on there? What controls is it?
They're all undersaddle. They're all undersaddle. We have the standard Magus, the Magus Pro, which has some extra EQ capabilities. Almost all of them have tuners built in. That's relatively standard variation of the typical Fishman product that you would see on $800 and below guitars, but still a little bit of the Ortega flavor to them in their design and in their aesthetic element.
No, it's good. I was just wondering. I guess a lot of people that play nylon string do some of the percussive things as well. So that's why there's a mic. That's why they have a mic in there, right? Because they want to do the very percussive playing. So that's interesting. But that's a great system for those guitars as well. I'm impressed. I'm looking at the one behind you on your right. It's got the bevel. It's got it's got the pickup. It's got a cutaway. So it's obviously good for stage. And that guitar looks great. Which model is that?
That model is the Striped Suite, and it's actually one of our most popular models. We have a series of guitars we call the Private Room, which we make out of select tone woods and special designs, and that particular guitar is one of those. It has a walnut armrest, it has a striped mahogany back and sides, and then the solid spruce top and the Magus Pro electronics with the cutaway.
Very, very nice, very nice. Now, yesterday I was showing the website, and I was showing the Flamel guitar. So can you give us, before we see the guitar, can you just tell us the story behind that? It's obviously an artist model. So can you tell us about the artists that you've partnered with and about that guitar in particular?
Love to. Yes, we partnered with the amazing Ben Woods, a flamenco master guitar player, West Coast guy, came out of the Bay Area with his band Flamel, where they were doing flamenco covers of Iron Maiden stuff and Yngwie things, and he's the greatest guitar player that no one's ever heard of outside of that the flamenco channel, and and his little flametal groove. But we were very fortunate to get to partner with him in the design of 3 signature instruments a couple of years back, a little bit before I came on board. But the instruments that he designed with us are there are 3 models, actually, a couple of extremely unique pieces that if you follow Ben Woods, and I would recommend that you do, he is a prolific YouTube producer, constantly cutting videos of either some of the metal stuff that he covers on flamenco plus traditional flamenco pieces, which are incredible. But the 3 pieces that he produced are 2 heavy metal oriented flamenco guitars, and then 1 more traditional performance flamenco guitar. And the flametal is what you're talking about. We have 2 models. This is the Flametal 2, which is a solid soundboard with the Ortega preamp that we discussed, the Ortega Fishman collaboration preamp, and Ben Wood's tattoo recreated on his on the soundboard, excuse me, and then a little nice touch for the reverse headstock, just to continue the nod.
Is there a practical reason for the reverse headstock, or is that a look thing?
It's a look thing. And I'm sorry, I think I said this was the Flametal 2. It's the Flametal 1. Pardon me. The Flametal 2 is the same guitar with a sound hole built in, which I have over here.
Becca Jones says, "Wow." Becca, give John a call.
So,
yeah, that's nice.
Again, the 12-hole bridge tie blocks that we talked about, the balanced and quarter-inch outs, and the high-end built-in tuner Ortega Fishman collaboration preamp.
Yeah, I noticed that. It has an XLR out as well, so you can plug straight into the board.
Correct. And he does. When he records, as you see, some of his videos are extremely well-produced sonically as well. And then his signature model, the Ben Woods signature model, is a much more traditional flamenco model.
Oh.
How about that?
Well, that was exciting.
It sure was. Everybody take a tumble there? Everybody okay? Nobody got hurt, did they?
As long as it's the phone and not you, that's okay.
Right, let's try that again. So, a more traditional flamenco guitar. Again, with the same signature preamp, blend preamp. These are Fishman blend, Ortega Fishman blend preamp. So they do have the mic as well as the under saddle. And this is an all solid wood Spanish built guitar. And at $15.99 MAP, in my humble opinion, I think this is the best guitar value on the market today for this kind of guitar. It is just a monster instrument. And again, check out Ben on his YouTube channel to see how he wields it. And I think you'll agree.
So how does the neck on that one compare to the flametal ones? Is that...
The flametal ones, he always likes his traditional flamenco neck. So this particular model here has the 52 millimeter or 2-inch traditional flamenco nut on them. They're relatively flat profile, but nice and broad at the nut.
Okay, so here just a question has come to my mind. So let's say you are predominantly a steel string player like myself. And I want to get into nylon string guitars. Okay, so what would you suggest to someone? Because obviously you've got many different models and different necks and everything. So I think the biggest obstacle to me may be the neck shape. So what would you suggest? If I came to you and said, right, I want to get into nylon string, which one would you recommend to me? I've been playing Martin steel string. What would you say to me?
I'm glad you asked, because across a number of different price points, we offer our nylon strings in 48 millimeter nuts, which is what you're used to, 47, 48 millimeter nuts on your Martins or your Taylors. In Europe, interestingly, the 48 millimeter slim nut is by far and away their best seller. Where in the States, we get a little bit more traditional or a little bit snootier about it, and the 52 millimeter amongst true nylon or classical players is still the standard. In Europe, they've in large part migrated to the 48 millimeter nut. The Stripe Suite that you mentioned behind me is a 48 millimeter slim neck guitar. And like I said, from the family series, $199 family series, if you just wanted a nylon to plunk around on and keep by the couch like I was talking about before with a slim nut, we have that in that version. And then really across our range up through our expensive Spanish built products, we offer that 48 millimeter nut. So that's exactly what I would recommend.
Okay, so there's two neck shapes basically.
3 actually. We also offer a 50 millimeter for the one that prefer a little bit more juice in the nut, but aren't ready for the 2-inch.
Okay.
So we do 48, 50, and 52 in the full-size guitars.
What is the standard, I'm showing my ignorance now, but what is the standard kind of nylon guitar? Is that 50?
That's 52. 52.
Oh, 52. Okay, so you got two other ones compared to that.
You'd hear it called the 2-inch nut, typically, a 2-inch nylon nut.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. So if someone wants to try one of these in person, how do Ortega, do you have dealers? Do you sell direct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have retailers all over the country. Of course, we also sell through Musician's Friend and a number of different internet platforms. Okay. So we have a pretty broad dealer list, and it's growing every day, thankfully.
Yeah, very, 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 very cool. All right, let me go to the chat. I want to ask if anyone has any questions. If anyone's got any questions about the guitars, can you please post them now? I'm just typing that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Again, for me, it's that transition of going from one to the other. And then I completely forgot to ask you about the ukuleles as well. So what does the lineup look like for those?
The ukuleles is one of the broadest ukulele offerings on the market. And that's really how we broke in, is offering a huge variety of really unique products. The ukulele market right now is saturated. There's hundreds of brands. There's very low barriers to entry. So it is not at all difficult to find a ukulele pretty much anywhere you look. So Ortega has really prided itself on offering a number of unique designs and things to bring attention to the uke range overall. We recently introduced the Hydra double neck ukulele, which is an 8-string and a 4-string tenor neck on one particular body. And I think if you indulge me in a spin around here, I'll grab one.
Please show us.
We've done very well with these. It's been extremely popular.
Oh my
They're a very cool instrument.
Wow.
Only one on the market like that.
Wow.
And there's some really good content on the web. If you search Hydra by Ortega, you'll find some guys that have really figured out their way around this thing and are making some very cool music with it. So things like that, just that set us apart from every other ukulele manufacturer on the market, have allowed us to make some significant inroads. We also have a really successful category of uke basses. Ukulele basses are not the easiest things to find. There are a few competitors out there that do it well, but we have a really wide range of really exceptional product, and that keeps our foot in the door in ukulele displays all across the country.
What is the price range of the ukes from the most affordable to the highest end ukulele?
We have a sopranino, which is one size below a soprano, that street prices is $69. So that's our least expensive ukulele. So you can find a cheaper ukulele out there for sure, but we stay away from the plastic and the toys, and we really try to focus on real wood instruments. And in playing these, you can hear the quality. And then we go up to as high as $399.
It's interesting. So you think of classical guitars, but you've got some innovative modern design products there, right? Like the double neck Duke. Yeah, it's cool.
Yep, we do. I mean, we're not so much a classical company as we are a guitar company. We just happen to focus our production on nylon guitars.
All right, I got a couple of questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
HK says, could you please give advice on when to use high tension or low tension strings? Thank you.
I have found in my playing anyway that it's a personal preference, and I prefer high tension strings. I just prefer their response. I have not heard of any real technical criteria for using either a high tension or a low tension string. I think it's about the type of feel that you like, and sonically, it's not quite the same as, putting 13s on your Martin instead of 11s, which of course you should put 13s on your Martin. They don't like 11s. It's not quite that same reaction as much as it is, a feel and a personal preference.
So again, I don't mind asking the silly questions because hopefully some people are thinking these too. Strings for a nylon guitar. What gauges are there? What gauge do you ship the guitars with as standard?
Well, it's not in the same context of gauges as they are with steel strings. You have your hard tension and you have your medium tension strings that we offer. And I'm sure that there is a core and winding millimeter designation, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
So what do you do? They all ship with the same tension strings then from the factory?
Yes, yeah. We use Savarez strings on the guitars that we ship from our Chinese factory, and then we offer our own Ortega branded strings that is made by Aquila out of Italy.
Okay, and with those guitars, how can you adjust the action on those like you can with steel string? And how would you do that?
Well, the majority of our instruments, certainly the Chinese instruments, the majority of our Chinese instruments come with a two-way adjustable truss rod. So you can obviously affect the neck that way, and then you would sand down or shim up the nut if necessary, if for some reason the angle wasn't appropriate for you, or you wanted a little bit lower or a little bit higher action.
Okay, so same as a steel string. That's good to know. All right, Becca Jones says, I saw there's a banjolele. I'd love to hear that thing. Do you have the banjolele there?
It's over here. I can't play it, but I can pull it up and plunk on it a little bit. So again, it's the old dog and the new tricks thing, and I have no idea if it's even not remotely in tune. I apologize. I wasn't prepared to demo the banjolele.
That looks
cool.
It
has a resonator head. It has a ring in it. Bracket head set up. And we do fairly well with these. These are kind of a neat, unique little piece.
Can you just hold it up to the camera? Because that looks really nice. Oh, wow. That's very cool. What does that retail for?
$299.
That's really cool. Do the ukuleles have pickups in them? I'm guessing
some of them do.
Oh, they do. So what systems do they? Is that like an undersaddle in the ukuleles?
We use it's the Magus Uke version of the pickup. Yes, it is undersaddle.
Does that have a mic as well then?
No.
That's undersaddle, right? Yeah. That's awesome. So you really have a lot of stage ready instruments, don't you?
We do.
We do.
That's the European influence and the rock and roll DNA of the Meinl organization in general has definitely bled down through the offerings from Ortega.
I saw a post the other day. A guy said he feels that dreadnought guitars should not have a cutaway, which I get it, but I kind of disagree with that. But I mean, when did classical guitars typically have cutaways in them? Is that a modern thing, or have they always had that for players to reach up the neck?
Yeah, well, certainly flamenco players play all the way up and down the neck. I imagine the cutaway nylon string guitar came around about the same time that the cutaway steel string guitar came around. Personally, I feel if you're playing any of these too far above the 12th fret, you're just showing off. But if that's your thing.
That's the same with all guitars, though, right?
That's right.
The money's down on the first 3 frets.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So how do you feel about being in Nashville then? Have you got any players in Nashville playing these guitars? I have to ask that question because obviously it's the steel string thing, but have you converted anyone? Yeah. Have you managed to convert anyone?
We have lots of friends that have done content for us down here. It's certainly not something you're going to see out on Broadway typically. But we get our stuff around. Certainly the Hydra, we've had a lot of interested Nashville pickers do some content for us here in town on that instrument.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe this time next year we'll see Broadway players playing the nylon string guitars.
Who knows?
if you can convert them.
Sure. Well, I've still got this idea of a good Willie copy, a good Trigger copy coming out. So we'll see if I can pull that off.
How about a double neck nylon and no, you're not going to do steel string. How about a double neck nylon guitar though?
I can only hope that my product manager in Germany is not watching this right now.
Hey, I'm just thinking outside the box. This is all free for you, okay? You can have this. No, or a nylon neck with a ukulele. No. Okay.
No.
Okay, fine. Well, that's great. Thank you so much. I think I just have to say I've seen these in person. They look amazing on the camera, but they look amazing in person. I'm just blown away by the quality. I think people should definitely check them out.
Well, it's another tool in your quiver. If you're a guitar player, you should have a nylon guitar. The tone is different, the feel is different, the way it makes you play is different, and they're accessible and they're affordable for a good quality instrument. And just as easily as you'd buy any other thing to tinker around on, you should have a nylon in your arsenal.
Yeah, I totally agree. HK says, which tops are more popular, the cedar or the spruce?
I would have said cedar coming into this gig because I always played cedar nylon guitars. My personal, nylon all through college. My nice guitar was always a cedar top guitar. However, we're actually probably about 60-40 spruce.
Yeah, I actually didn't ask you what woods the guitars are made from. The back.
Right. Well, tops are all cedar or spruce. Okay. We obviously had to migrate away from rosewood over the last few years, although thankfully we'll be able to migrate back now that the CITES restrictions have been loosened. And for your viewers who don't know what CITES is, it's the international body that regulates endangered species of natural materials, woods in this case. And they last couple of years had forbid us to use to export rosewood. But now we can again. But anyway, so we moved to things like laurel and walnut, a lot of different varieties of mahogany, sapele, things like that. So those are the materials that we use. Most 99% of our production is mahogany neck as well. So
that was the whole industry, right? I remember that. Everyone was like,
absolutely.
Everyone was freaking out. They had to change the woods they were using. And then, so you just said the restrictions have they been lifted now? Are you able to use the rosewood again freely?
Yes, for 2021, we'll be able to continue to resume shipping rosewood instruments or instruments with rosewood components around the world.
Yeah, I wonder if guitar companies will go back to rosewood or if they'll stay with the alternatives that they're using now. It'd be interesting to see.
The cynic in me says it'll depend on the pricing. If we can continue to produce rosewood, similar, what we've used, the majority of what we used in exchange instead of rosewood for backs and sides has been walnut from a tonal standpoint and from a cosmetic standpoint. It works really well. So if we can make the same instrument with rosewood back and sides and the same price point as we did with walnut, I suspect we'll go back to rosewood.
Yeah, and there's certainly a thing about rose. People like rosewood, don't they? But what's that? That one on your left shoulder, is that walnut on the back and sides? That looks really nice.
No, that is a spalted maple. That is the Thomas Sweisen signature model. He's a German nylon string player, and so that's a spalted.
How many signature models are there in total?
3. We have 3 signature artists that we build for. Javier Reyes from Animals as Leaders. We built his signature 8-string. We have a couple of models that we build in Spain and one that we import. Then we have Ben Woods, of course, that we've already discussed, and then Thomas Sweisen.
I really, really want to check out the Flamel stuff. That sounds really awesome. Got to check.
I think you'd like it.
Got to check that out. HK, can he still play D? I don't know what that means. Is that an injury?
I can't. I do not have D. I do not have D under my fingers anymore. I still have the Rick. I doubt. In addition to D, Rick Emmett opened a Triumph record with a little piece in D major, and I can't even remember the name of it, but I still can play that.
Is that a nylon piece?
Yes, it is.
You see, I don't mind admitting my ignorance sometimes. I had Chris Martin on last week, and he mentioned the guitarist. I've forgotten his name now. He mentioned the guitarist, and I said I hadn't heard of him, and I got in trouble in the comments below. But I don't, I haven't heard of everyone, but I'm open to hearing about new people. The Flamel stuff, I can imagine it already how awesome that's going to sound. Already got it in my head. Do they use any effects, like any distortion, or is it purely acoustic?
Purely acoustic. Watch Ben Woods. I'm telling you, it will open your mind. It will open your mind.
I'm definitely going to, and I encourage everyone watching to watch as well. I had a question. Where can we see their guitars? Well, we answered that already, right? With the dealers. So dealers everywhere.
Ortega,
also online. Yeah.
Of course, and OrtegaGuitars.com.
This is Joan. You met Joan. We came to the store, right? She said, "Can we go to the shop where we met him before?" I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know.
Shop did.
You're in.
Sure.
We came there, right? And that's where you are now. You're in the showroom, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but when we came for the showroom, it was last year before NAMM, and
we went to lunch before NAMM. Yeah.
And it
was a little showroom back then. We weren't in this new space. We just got in this new space in January.
Oh, so you've moved the offices.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's the same general warehouse facility, but we have our own section now. It's dedicated to Ortega.
I think what she means is when we came to visit you, you had the NAMM display set up, and that looked awesome. Remember that in that room, you had all the that you were going to take to NAMM. I think that's what she's talking about. That was really cool.
Got it.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
And the showroom's similar. I look forward to seeing you guys again someday and show you around the new digs.
Yeah, I'm sad that we every summer we have Summer Nam. Obviously, we have Cass, and I love. We usually drive down. I love doing that. It's a real shame, but obviously, everyone's health is the most important thing, and I'm really glad that we can connect virtually like this, because this is great too, because people watching may not have heard of the guitars, and they're familiar with them, and they're going to check them out, I'm sure. Definitely.
Right, I hope so.
So I'm glad we can do this virtual stuff. And if I always say to the guests, if you've got anything coming out in the future, feel free to do one of these with us and show it off anytime. So
count on it.
It's a
Look
great.
forward to that.
The internet is now a very important part of our life, and it's a great platform for musicians and companies, isn't it? So it's a good thing, I think. So
it is. So when are you doing another live performance, live stream, so we can get on and enjoy and have a pint?
This week, everyone watching, I have Mr. Chirac tomorrow. I'm nervous now. Thursday, I have Larry Fishman, so I'll definitely, we'll obviously be talking about Fishman pickups, so I'm sure he'll mention your name there as well, because you worked with him. So that's really cool. And then Friday, I have my friend Evan. I don't know if you know Evan Gluck. He's a luthier in New York, and he does a lot of. He travels around and gives talks to people like Stu Mack and the guitar conventions. He goes to NAMM. He was at NAMM this year. So that will be fun. And then Saturdays, most Saturdays I do a 4 p.m. show where I play the live stream. I do covers, take requests. Actually,
of course.
And then sometimes I'm doing some other ones as well. But for anyone watching, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel, because it will notify you when I do go live and have a guest on or perform. And where can people go to see more about the Ortega guitars? What's your website address, and do you have a YouTube channel?
OrtegaGuitars.com. And yes, we absolutely have a YouTube channel. It's just at Ortega Guitars.
Awesome. So please subscribe to Ortega Guitars. Please check out the guitars. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon. John, thanks so much for hanging out today. It was really interesting, and I think all the products look awesome, and I think people really enjoyed seeing them.
I appreciate it, Aaron. It was fun. It was good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
Hang in there. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Everybody out there, stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, everyone stay safe. All right, John, stay on the line. I'll say goodbye to you off air. Everyone watching, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate the questions and you hanging out. Please share this video with your friends to spread the word of Ortega Guitars. Thank you for the super chat, Tone Wars. Really appreciate that too. Thanks for supporting my channel. I'll see you again soon. Be well. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.